Well, welcome everybody. If you are here for artificial intelligence office hours, you are in the right place. As folks are filing it in here, if some of you wouldn't mind maybe just popping open the chat window and just saying, hey, hello, so that we can make sure you can hear the sound of my voice. Michelle, you want to say hello? Just so we can
Hello.
make sure. Hello. Well, hello. Um, Thanks, Dale. Really appreciate it. Oh, good. Thanks,
Oh
everybody.
boy.
There we go. There we go. We've got a large group joining us today, which is exciting. My name's for those of you that I have not yet had a chance to meet. My name's Jason Claus. I'm the director of marketing here at Endsight. I'm joined as we're progressing to the next slide. Michelle, come on, keep up, keep
Oh,
up.
sorry. I'm reading.
That's okay. I'm joined as always for this type of content by the Wizard of Brez, Michelle Brezenski. She leads our software development team that includes the work that gets done with API integration and Power BI development, reporting, and also artificial intelligence and Copilot work. She's also a key member of Endsight's AI task force, and yes, we have one because this is an emerging technology that's going to have pretty profound impacts on all of us, we think. Also, Michelle's been classing this place up for like more than 15 years. So everybody, anybody that knows her loves her. So Michelle,
Well,
thank
you.
you.
I
It's
appreciate
not easy
the
to
kind
create this
introduction.
stuff. And we're glad you're here. Also, I want to give a shout out to Aaron Krebs. These webinars don't just happen on their own. I'm just really grateful for all your efforts. You make it look easy, buddy. Okay, with that, there's some names here, folks that aren't clients. We're Endsight. We do computer system support for companies in Northern California and Southern California and Hawaii. We've got some awards that we're pretty proud of. But I think the more important thing is, why are we doing this for folks? We believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. And as people learn about what exactly Copilot and artificial intelligence is, what it's not, they might become a little less suspicious or afraid of it and begin trying to figure out how to apply it to the business. It's this kind of stuff we feel is really consistent with our core values, which are there in the little circles. And here endeth the commercial, folks. Our agenda for today, we've got an example that we're going to share with you. Michelle's going to take over from there and talk about some of the new things that have happened, probably over the last 6 months or so, Michelle?
3 to 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, there's some pretty neat stuff in there. She's got some specific examples to share with you, and then we've got some time set aside for Q&A. Folks, please don't be shy about trying to add questions into the chat or into the Q&A. We will answer as many as we can. We've got a ton of content for this first office hours. So we just want to apologize up front. We might not be able to spend as much time as we'd like to in future editions of this, but please do put those in there. All right, so the example is actually from me. And we thought, well, how are we going to get somebody to talk about this? Well, let's pick the guy that loves the sound of his own voice. So that's why you're stuck with me. My example isn't just about Copilot. It actually, I used Copilot inside of Microsoft Stream, which is Microsoft's video hosting platform, kind of like YouTube for Microsoft, and then Teams for communicating with Michelle and other constituents. Now, what happened was, I got a note from our president. He said, "Hey, Jason, that's Josh. Michelle's the other person. In case that's not clear to everybody." Josh says, "Hey, we just got out of a meeting with one of our clients. Michelle did a really, really good job of kind of laying out sort of a path that the client could get herself on to really start just even beginning to ask the right questions about Copilot. And I want you to go watch that because I think there's something to it." So I went to go watch it, and he was right. There was something to it. But that's not what this example is about. In this example, I saw something different. In this example, I saw a story that he told that really resonated, that Josh told, that really seemed to resonate with this particular client. So first thing I do is pop open Copilot. I open it inside of Stream, by the way. I don't have to go anywhere else. And then I asked it to recap the meeting. It gave me a recap. And then you can see in the recap, what I really like about this feature, about using it here, is that you can see there's a timestamp in the video where it's showing me the recap, right? And so I was able to go there and then rewatch it. But so inventory management challenges, that's the story I was looking for. And then I went, okay, so then I asked it, okay, it really seemed to resonate with the client. Can you can you give some detail there? And then it gave me this, right? So I'm able to triangulate that, yes, Josh told an amazing story and it really resonated with the client. So then I asked it, okay, can you please summarize and retell that story that Josh told? And when I hit the send button, now I know I'm outside of the view of what it really looks like, and I'm sorry, but I wanted you to see everything. And you can see it wrote me kind of the outline format story that Josh told, right? He talked about inventory management, he talked about data integration, accessibility, use of, how AI can be making more efficient, and then kind of painted a future vision, right? So that's pretty good. Now, the blue, we want to make sure to protect the innocents. We're blocking everybody out here. Okay, so then now I'm asking Copilot to pretend with me, right? So let's say all the systems are connected. This is something that Copilot can do that I think is amazing. Like it can imagine with me, which is kind of cool. Let's tell this story if all the systems are connected and how Copilot could just really streamline this whole thing. I hit send, and it gives me a story. And you can see the story is a big old distributor calls a sales rep at a winery and says, hey, I want to place an order for a huge number of cases. Ordinarily, that takes a lot of time to figure out if you even have the cases. You want to know if the distributor has paid their bills, so on and so forth. But in the Copilot world, all of this happens with just 2 questions to Copilot, and everything that needs to happen to arm the sales rep with yes, we have those cases, but wait a minute, they haven't paid their bill. So you want to make sure you negotiate some better terms, right? So that story's all right there. So what I did next then was narrow Copilot. I don't want Copilot to write it as just anything. I want Copilot to write it. I want it to take on the role of a copywriter and write me a story that tells this, retell this story according to copywriting best practices. This now allows me to tell it to use specific headlines or play with headlines, play with bullet points, play with structure, use a pre-head, so on and so forth. So I do that, and it gives me the beginnings of a pretty good story. And I'm not going to detail the whole story here. Now, what happened next was it's just me back and forth with it in Copilot, just kind of iterating and working with my copywriter now. And what I ended up with is this email that I sent to Michelle. And it's an email that could be sent out on behalf of some of our account managers that leads off with, what if managing your winery was as simple as asking a question? And then it goes through to kind of outline a specific problem that wineries that work with distributors might have, and how Copilot could just make that whole thing so much easier and say, hey, if it's of interest to you, let's set up some time to talk. This whole process, it took me longer to watch the video than it took me to walk through this and get to Michelle with a piece of content that we expect would be pretty useful to our winery clients. And so, Michelle, I know that was all rapid fire and I talked really fast, and I know that it's probably not the best example, but
I think it was a great example. I'm actually going to use your example and improve on it later during one of our examples. So,
you're going to iterate on it.
Oh, I am a little bit. I'm
great.
actually going to relate back to it of how we could have made it just a little bit more. We're going to talk about collaboration and like how we could have gone back and forth in reference to this example. So I really appreciate you bringing out the example and putting all this together. Sometimes as you're going through that creative process, it's hard to kind of stop and take a screenshot or whatever else and remember what you did. But I think this was a great example of how Copilot does this thing of enhancing the skills you already have. And so touching on what you were saying earlier about, a Copilot in AI in general is it's not intended to replace people. It's intended to replace maybe tasks or some things that you do, but also and more centrally, it's intended to enhance the skills that you already have and shorten the time it takes you to exercise those skills and get you to additional value-added work quicker. And I think that's a great example. I don't think you could have gotten to this point without being who you are, first of all, and having some of those ideas churning around in your head and knowing that, kind of what the outcome that you needed to get to was, and then walking through the iterations. It was a great example. So I appreciate you coming on and showing that off for us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for letting me participate.
Of course. Okay, so we're going to hop into my part of the webinar, which is going to kind of encompass a little bit of discussion about what AI is in general, and then more narrowly, why Copilot is our preferred solution for AI. So starting at a high level overview, AI is about systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. So lots and lots and lots of folks are getting into this business, and not just the business of using AI inside of their business, but there's a lot of companies out there that are actually generating AI clients and systems and all these other things. And so I'm sure by now you guys have been seeing a lot of ads, a lot of emails, and a lot of pop-ups, both within and within your vertical software applications or on the web or in email, all those kinds of things. And so my goal here is just to kind of provide a little bit of defining guidance into what these different pieces are when people are throwing ads at you left and right. The visual in this slide is representative of some of the different pieces that go into an AI system. So you got your large language models, and that's those things in that little cloud on your left over there. Large language models understand and generate language, right? And so every AI system needs one or more knowledge sources, and those are those yellow boxes on the right. And then the AI systems that actually do the reasoning, access the large language model and the data sources are the things you see kind of in the middle. And this middle part is what I want to draw your attention to for this slide. The different flavors of AI systems and what these things should mean to you as a business owner or somebody who's invested in furthering your business and making sure that it has longevity and can scale in the new coming technical technological era.
You're doing great.
Okay, so for you as end users, the important designation or delineation between some of these different pieces that are here in the middle, it should come with a couple of questions. And some of those questions are like, where can these things get its information from? And how does it secure that information? And how do I prevent my proprietary business information from becoming part of the large language models training sources? So to put this in a little bit of context, the different flavors are grouped in the middle in a top and bottom box. The top box is, these are AI systems that are available today within your vertical applications. This is going to be your QuickBooks Online, your Salesforces, inside HubSpot, inside Zendesk, all of these vertical applications that are coming out with these AI agents. Most major vendors are putting them together or they're coming out with them. These are specific to the application themselves. They can do some pretty neat things. They're built on some of the same, they still have the same kinds of system pieces. They offer security for your data in that they're not sending your data outside, so LLMs can train on them. They come at usually at a little bit of a premium cost or an additional licensing fee to go with the vertical software application. The catch with these, though, is that they're specific to the vendor software. I can't take a HubSpot agent and access something in Salesforce, and I can't take a QuickBooks agent and also access my HubSpot information. They're very centralized to that vertical application that they're dedicated to. This bottom box down here, these are agents or systems. They're much less limited in their knowledge source capability, and they offer some benefits to end users as a whole in that because they have knowledge sources that are configurable, then you get more bang for your buck. So I can take a Copilot or a ChatGPT or a Gemini, and I can code it in such a way that it can access my HubSpot information and access my QuickBooks information and access my Salesforce information. So we're still using those natural language operations. Most of these initially come out of the box being sourced by the web as a default. They can be supplied with data or connected to organizational data to reason over. These are your SharePoints and your HubSpot information and all these other things. They have to be configured to do that, but they don't come with the same built-in security principles that dedicated versions do, right? These ones at the top, except for Copilot. So moving on, what distinguishes Copilot from all the other generic systems out there is basically that inherent security that comes with it. So we recommend Copilot for AI interaction because of this instantaneous connectivity to organizational data and the plug and play security boundaries that are instantiated via the 365 tenant relationship. What this does is a really good job of is separating web and work operations. You get to know where you're asking your question of, and then you get to make the decision of whether or not you send data to that different scope, knowing that you shouldn't be putting proprietary data in a web focused or scoped agent. This keeps your organizational data secure. It prevents the use of proprietary information to train those LLMs. Copilot also protects your data by respecting the security you already have in place. So it's going to come out of the box already respecting what's going on in 365 as far as what it has access to and what it does not. It's already connected to SharePoint and other 365 based data. So if you use SharePoint, I'm sure you do, SharePoint contains just about our entire lives these days, right? From OneDrive to Teams conversations and shared files to document libraries and all in the whole 9 yards. But it comes out of the box connecting to that stuff already. It supports a wide range of custom connectors for integrating other enterprise data sources and APIs. And this is all done as work data. So we can build custom connectors that connect to organizational data, and it's respected as the work scoped reference and is protected from being sent outside your organization via those connectors that are attached to Copilot. And then with the introduction of Copilot actions, now we can not only take Copilot to use to search and research information and compose business documentation, we can also do actions. We can take actions on some of those pieces of data that we're getting back. We're going to talk more about that in the next section, though. Okay, so this slide is really chunky. This is kind of like a broad overview of what's new. It's included for reference. So once we send out the recording, people who want to go back and reference what we talked about or how we talked about it, those will be in the recording, and that's kind of what this slide is really to reference. We're going to cover all these in the next couple of demos, except for the visual agent creator. So this little piece is pretty cool. It's an AI image generation that uses natural language descriptions to make images. So if you're like me, I got this idea in my head and I could tell you about it, but I can't draw to save my life. So getting into, or, I could go maybe search some stuff on Google, but even telling Google in natural language what this picture is in my head, kind of difficult to tease that out of some of the web-based images. But using Visual Creator Agent, I can use those natural language descriptions and tell it exactly what that image looks like in my head, and it'll come up with a bunch of ideas for me to then choose from, and I can use those images throughout the presentations or communications, et cetera, sort of massively tease my coworkers with on and on. So if you get a chance to check out Visual Creator, it comes with, go ahead.
Yeah, the other way to think about using this too is it gives you kind of a rough draft of what you're looking for. And you could send that on to a graphic designer and say, hey, it's not this, but it's something like this. And it helps give much better direction.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that as an application, but that's
Yep.
I don't deal with graphic designers very much. You guys do, but so yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you get a chance to go play with Visual Creator, it should be under your agents and your Copilot screen. That little black box over here is kind of how I got to that. It should already be showing up in your screens. But let's jump into some
as you're moving into the next thing. I just want everybody to hear. Thank you for getting your questions in there. We see them, and when we get to a spot where we can start taking them, we will. I just want to make sure that folks don't feel like they're being ignored.
100%. Okay, so on the what's new pages, we've got our first one is called Copilot Chat. So Copilot Chat is it's a pretty new feature. It came out, I want to say last month to general release. This is the answer to the question I get from a lot of my users of, I want to make a Copilot agent and I'm going to go build and have, AI knowledge or sources or searches or whatever. But do all my users who want to use this agent need a Copilot license? So up until recently, the answer to this was yes, if you were using anything but the web as a knowledge source. But Microsoft actually listened for once, and they've come out with a new offering called Copilot Chat. Now, Copilot Chat is going to be the same experience that you've seen with the free Copilot that's on everybody's Windows machines these days, except that it can also use agents that are created inside the organization. And they do this as a lower point option for users, for organizations who want to get their users access to agents, but don't want to have to pay for a big, huge license of $30 per user per month and have all those in-app copilots available to that user. They just want them to be able to consume agents and get data out of, like that guy who's selling his or that got the distributor order. That's an agent. That's what that is, right? It's a knowledge source or an AI agent that's built to answer a couple of specific questions about things. What's my inventory, and what's the status of this client that wants to buy it from me, and get that back. But the guy who's working the phone or taking that sales call doesn't necessarily need Teams or Copilot in Teams and Copilot in Word and Copilot in Excel. We just want to make sure he can use the agent, and that's kind of the offering that Copilot Chat comes in. So you get all the current features of the non-licensed version of Copilot, web searches, and collaboration via Copilot pages, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You can reason over business documentation. So you can reference a file local to your organization, but you have to do this on a one-by-one basis. It's not just going to have access to all of that data. This is all backed by an Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. And so the usage is metered. You're going to build monthly on that subscription. It can be monitored and capped. So you can say, I want to spend $100 this month on Copilot agents and see what happens and not go over that cap. But it's on a metered basis. And this metered basis, Microsoft has assigned a unit called messages. And the answer to what constitutes a message and what doesn't, a little cloudy. We think we understand it pretty well. If you have questions about it, we can kind of dig into that topic on a one-on-one basis. But all in all, this is kind of the lower entry point answer to getting people ramped up on using AI in their everyday work without overloading them with all of the stuff that comes with a full-on Copilot license.
All right. So just to kind of repeat back to you and summarize for everybody, because there's a lot here, right?
There's a lot here.
There was a huge roadblock to Copilot adoption, and that being that to even start playing around with it really in a meaningful way, it cost $30 per user per month, and you had to sign up for a year term, and it just got expensive really quickly. This is an answer to that. Like, some of your users might need that $30 per user per month, but a lot of them probably don't. And this allows you to kind of pay as you use it, to do more experimentation with it. Right. And there's a lot more to it. Right. And if you've got questions, Michelle can help you. But it's sure. but its intent here is to try to make it a little bit more manageable from an economic perspective, to start getting into Copilot. Yeah.
100%.
Perfect.
It's a good summary.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Give Copilot a run for its money. Okay. The next new feature that we are going to introduce is called Copilot Pages. This is a really, really great tool to collaboratively Copilot within Teams. This also works with Copilot Chat as well, using web grounding for non-licensed users. But I put together this short demo, so we're going to kind of jump into this and see how Pages works. So I'm going to start here in the Copilot for 365 agent in my web browser. That's what this source is up here. And I'm going to build some research on hybrid work trends. So I put my prompt in and I get all this information back. So knowing that I'm going to need to collaborate with my team on this, and I want they have different pieces of information they're going to add. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this into the edit and pages link right there. And you can see on the right side, my prompt is returned. My prompt and my returned information show up in the loop page on the right-hand side. So this is good. But I also need to include information on the benefits and risks for each trend. So I go back to my Copilot window, I put the prompt in, get all that information back, kind of check it over a little bit. So I'm going to add this to my loop data. And now I have both my original research and the additional risks and benefits information all in one place there on the left. So we're going to pretend for a minute that I've included my team on this. And you do that by tagging them in the loop page with an @mention, right? And then they're going to get a notification letting them know that I'm dragging them in to do more work. On their side, from the team perspective, they're going to open that link that they received in a loop page on the web. Since Loop is a real-time interactive collaboration tool, they can see and edit, they can add notes, they can do more Copilot research, yada, yada. So on a new line, I'm going to use the Copilot button. I'm going to ask for examples of corporations who have embraced or abandoned hybrid work models and give me a short explanation as to why. And so Copilot's going to think about that. It's going to add it to the loop page, and I'm going to have all of that right down underneath my original research here. As the originator, as the team leader, back in my own original Copilot window where all of this mess started, I can see users' input in real time in the loop screen on the right, and I can continue to modify and refine with or without Copilot right alongside my coworkers in this page. Now, the research looks pretty good. What I really needed to get out of this, though, was a presentation. So I'm going to take all of the data from Loop, just do a simple Control-A. I'm going to paste it into my Word document here. And then I'm going to save this file in my OneDrive as work research. And then I'm going to close out Word. So that finish here really quick. See, I talk faster than my mouse moves. Okay, come on. Save. Got it. Okay. So next I'm going to jump in and I'm going to build the presentation, right? So I'm going to jump into PowerPoint. I'm going to open my in-app Copilot and I'm going to use Copilot's magic to create my presentation. I'm going to say create. I'm going to use a file reference, and I'm going to say, create me a presentation from the research we gathered and give it some suggestions on tone. So I need this for an executive presentation, and I'm just going to tell them that. So there's my executive presentation. I'm going to hit send here. Copilot's going to go pull all the information out of my research file, and it's going to build my presentation slides for me. It's going to include graphics and talking points for each one of the slides. And I may not actually like repeat those talking notes on each slide, but it gives me a starting point, right? It gives me ideas of things that I need to talk about, what the slide is relating to. But just like that, my research is done, my team collaborated with me on it, and then all the way through my final presentation, all in a few minutes using some Copilot research and collaboration tools.
And the thing I love about this example is that, you might use this presentation just as it is, right? And you could, because it's not terrible, right? But you don't have to, like, this is just like, think how far you are. And then if you wanted to, you can reskin it with a different template if you want, and you can continue to collaborate on it. Right.
So using when I did that Copilot prompt, I could have also referenced a PowerPoint template file that would have come in with my color schemes and like we have with our Endsight templates.
Yeah, I think the other thing is it's just the power of how Copilot bleeds into all the other, most of these tools, these LLM tools, you can interact with it the same way that Michelle's showing you this, right? It's the power of how it plugs into everything that makes it so much more usable. So, for example, you were showing Loop, Michelle, right? I took that because we've been practicing, everybody, the last week or so of this. So I took that tip and I used it with one of my coworkers, but I didn't invite him to the loop. What I did was I inserted the loop itself into the Teams chat that we were having, so that he never had to leave Teams. And so I was working in it with Copilot, and he was reacting to it, and we actually covered a ton of ground. In a reasonably short period of time. The other thing is we did it asynchronously. We live in different time zones, and so it really aided that work process as well.
Well, even going back to your original example that you gave at the outset of this, right? Inside of that piece, you had pinged me, I think, a little bit earlier in that chat of, hey, does this story sound reasonable, right? We could have done that in collaboration in Loop. At the time, I think when we were going through that, I don't think this was available yet, but we could have done that in Loop, right? Where I could have gone in and changed a couple of words here and there, but you've got that real time right there and can proceed. You're not roadblocked waiting on me to review. So pretty neat tool.
I'll say.
Okay, the next feature we're going to talk about is Copilot Prompt Gallery. So if you've had any interaction with me about AI and Copilot over the last couple of months, you've probably heard me talk about Prompt Gallery already. The art of prompt engineering involves crafting effective prompts to guide AI models in generating desired outputs. So earlier in Jason's example, he kind of went through the whole iteration idea of, okay, recap my meeting, and then that sounds good. Find me these things. Okay, now what's the story here? And now I'm going to give it direction of act like you're an expert copywriter, and then put these ideas into copyright format. And so all of these are components of good prompting, right? It was clear and specific. It contained contextual references. It targeted specific audiences. It gave really good instructions for what to do and how to act or how to interpret. All these are ingredients to good prompting, but it also sometimes takes time and iteration and persistence to get from start to finish in all of that. Some of us go, like me, I go right into Copilot and I expect to be able to put in half of what I'm thinking and have it come out with something cognizant. It doesn't always happen that way. It takes iteration and time. Prompt Gallery is a great way to shortcut some of that time and iteration. And it does this by providing a library of pre-curated prompts. Now, these prompts are mostly from Microsoft, of things that they have found useful for prompting in Copilot, but it really does get the ideas or the creation or the generation of, oh, I see how they put that structure together. Let me try that structure with another topic. And so not just taking the prompts for what they are, but idea generation on what pieces we're using to craft good prompts, so we get practice doing that. So you can narrow the library down to specific apps, tasks, and job types. And so I'm going to select legal here, and then I'm going to try this prompt about arguments from similar cases. The pop-up box that comes from the prompt gives me a little bit more information about this particular prompt. The application that's showing on the prompt detail tells me where it's designed to work best, in this case, Microsoft Word. If I click here, it allows me to choose either an existing document to create my prompt in, or if I had documents out there, this is where it might find types of cases I'm looking for, or I can create it within a new document and then provide some file references. Either way, the library opens in Word, and it opens it opens in Word on the web, and it opens the in-app Copilot tool, and it populates the prompt for me right from the prompt thing. From here, I can either just execute this as is, or I can add other file references. I can set some context. I can assign an audience. I can give it some further instructions. Back in my library prompt, you can see down here, it even gives you some suggestions on ways to improve this prompt and customize it for your own use. Okay, so here's where the good part comes in. So let's say I like a prompt a lot, or I like this particular prompt a lot, and I think it would be useful for some of my other coworkers who also do some initial research preparation on new cases that come in for different types of law, say. The buttons over here on the right enable me to do my own thing with the prompt. I can copy it, I can save it, or I can share it. Shared prompts that you've saved also show up in the prompt library, as do prompts shared in a team. And sharing to a team is as simple as clicking the share button on the prompt, share it to a team, and then choose the team. These tools within Prompt Gallery enable your users to start to begin to curate a library of organizational knowledge, organizational crafted prompts that consist of well-crafted and tested examples that are specific to your organization or things that people might reuse. These prompts that get saved like this generate your prompt library internally, and this saves users time and hopefully maybe some iterations and maybe even some frustration in trying to get what exactly they need out of Copilot.
Right. So like in the example that I shared, the fact that I, narrow it to be a copywriter for this type of work, that would be a great example of an enhancement or to make available in your prompt library.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
One thing to note about these, the gallery prompts, even if you're pulling them right off the web from Microsoft's suggestion, these prompts within Copilot still adhere to the security boundaries within your 365 tenant, as well as the things your AI assistant has learned about working directly with you. So in other words, prompts can be more or less successful for other users based on what their permissions allow them to see and have access to. And they may come back with a little bit different tone or a little bit different layout, depending on how Copilot has learned you prefer to interact. Okay, our last show and tell is going to be around the new SharePoint agents. This is pretty new. It's come out in the last month and a half, I think. So if your I mentioned earlier, if your organization has been using SharePoint for a while, you'll have noticed by now that it contains a vast amount of digital content, and it's probably growing daily between OneDrive and Teams and shared files and everything that we do as an organization. SharePoint's getting pretty hefty out there. So what this means essentially is that it's the more your digital footprint grows, the harder it is for employees to find things that they need easily inside of SharePoint. Copilot agents in SharePoint are designed to meet the need of unlocking content, enabling productivity, and making better business decisions. So every SharePoint site includes an agent scoped for the site's content, and it's ready to assist you instantly. These exist today already. They've already been turned on. Whether or not you have Copilot licenses or you're on the pay-as-you-go program it determines whether or not you can see them, but they're there already. These ready-made agents are an easy starting point to get answers without digging around with search and browsing menus and trying to find breadcrumbs and all kinds of things. They can be used immediately without any customization by all users with access to a licensed version of Copilot or within tenants with a metered usage enabled, that pay-as-you-go thing. You'll find the site agent in the Copilot icon on the right side of the ribbon at the top of your SharePoint screen. So on your site, every site will have one of these if you have a Copilot license. From simple, fast data retrieval, here's my example. Look up a standard process for me, all the way through automated actions and streamlined workflows, like thinking document approvals or vacation approval requests or document version management approvals. SharePoint agents allow for an intranet really that works with you than against you. The agent's name defaults to the same as the site name. You see that's here. I was playing around with this on my development site. And it will be at the top of the list of agents approved or added to the site, which means that, yes, you can also create more specific or task-driven agents right in the interface. You can do this from within any of the site assets, as well as editing agents to adjust the source to have your agent focus solely on a particular document library, or you can even customize the tone and the prompt messages that users receive. So I like Jason's example, and I'm hoping he'll jump in here with his
with the sales team?
This. Yeah. Well, no, you had said earlier in one of our earlier things about what this was like.
Right. Yeah. Forgive me. I was thinking about something else. this is like having your own purpose-built librarian for the
Yeah.
site or for the or for the list that you're trying to work on. And and it's not just that, it's that the librarian is never going to go take another job someplace else, because we've got the person. A lot of times what happens is the person that built the SharePoint site, or the person that organized it, then moves on or gets promoted or something happens, and all of the the guts of what made sense with that list is gone. And
Right.
everybody's just kind of stuck with where is that thing? And then
Why do you
end
put it
up with,
there? Because we just always have. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here it's like you just ask questions, and it's like the expert that built it is going to go, well, oh yes, I know exactly what you're thinking about, and it's right here.
Yep. It's a much better search engine for SharePoint, really.
Right.
So these
But then this
agents,
next piece is the really cool piece, I think.
yeah, this is
Because
the one you were talking about with the marketing team, right? So agents can also be shared within email or within Teams chats. So this allows your teams, not your capital T teams, your work teams, to work with the same speed and information without having to leave Teams. So you can mention the agent in a group chat setting. This provides a team with a subject matter expert that's ready to assist and facilitate. So again, with that librarian impression, right? I don't want to have to leave Teams and go into SharePoint and go find a thing and then bring it back to my Teams. I want to just ask my question here. So sharing agents, SharePoint agents that are attached to certain sites or do specific things, sharing them with your Teams chat allows those app mentions to happen. So a quick note about security here. SharePoint agents adhere to the existing SharePoint user permissions and sensitivity labels to ensure data is protected. So what does this mean? This means that if I share an agent inside of my Teams chat and I ask questions about files or things that people don't have access to, or data that's been marked sensitive and they're not part of the I can access sensitive data group, that means that SharePoint or the SharePoint agents have to deal with that, and they're automatically created to do so. So users still only have access to the files they're authorized to view or edit, as defined by the SharePoint groups. But I left an example here. So we have our leader user here. He's in a Teams chat. He asks his agent to access some sensitive information to answer a question. But some of these chat members don't have the necessary permissions to the source information. So in this case, the leader is prompted to review and approve the agent's response for sharing with people who do not have access. Those without access to the actual content will be notified that the agent is waiting it's waiting for permissions to go ahead and share. When the leader elects to share the response, those who don't have access to the source files will only see the response, not the files it's grounded on. Best of all, SharePoint agents are available to users via metered consumption, which is that pay-as-you-go thing. So you don't have to completely license your entire workforce just to get them a better librarian for their SharePoint sites. There's a lot more that can be done with these agents, especially when you introduce agent actions, which is all about automations. And that one I'm going to have to save for another topic or another AI office hours, because the topic is very deep and wide, and we can go on about that for hours probably.
That's another office hours for certain.
That's another office. That's on the list of other office hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is this is the one where, like in the context of a sales team, right? There's always conversations that are happening where that perfect document that explains the problem perfectly is what's really needed. And it probably was created a year ago. It's just nobody knows where it is. Right. And so the sales rep drops the note in chat, and then you get the 3 or 4 messages like, I know we've got that, I just don't know where it is. And maybe you find it, or maybe you don't find it until 2 weeks later after you've recreated it. This helps to really solve this. You can just loop in your librarian and go, we have that, don't we? And I go, why?
Yeah.
Why, yes, I think it's this one right here. And you go, wow, that was awesome.
I can't wait till they put voices in it and get a little British butler voice that goes alongside with the, yes, we have that. It's
that would be really, yeah. If it talked to people, why, yes.
That would be cool.
I like that.
Okay, that's a wrap on the new features that we're going to go over as far as demonstration purposes and stuff today in Copilot. Honestly, if Jason said he talked fast earlier, that was pretty rapid fire for everything that we went through. So you're going to get a link to the recording shortly after this thing wraps up. You'll be able to review the recording as often as you want, or share it out with other members of your team. If you have questions about anything we've covered so far, you can use the Q&A chat that's being garnered out there. And I believe Aaron is keeping track of that one right now.
We have,
So
we have a handful of them. We're just kind of waiting to the appropriate time to try to loop them in if we got time, Michelle.
we have a slide for that. If we have
Yep.
if we have time, we'll see if we can we can
Yeah,
go
we're
really
almost
fast through
there.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Stick
are.
with us, people, because we're almost there.
So the second biggest question that I get about AI is around security. Everybody's very concerned about security, and rightfully so, right? We want to make sure the data is protected and we're not doing things because we don't know what's going on in this big black box that is AI. We want to make sure we're doing it safely. So the use of AI, it's great. I highly encourage it, and I think you should get used to it and get to know it and start experimenting with it. But as with any new technology, there are things to watch out for, or as Stephen Hicks, who is our security practice manager at Endsight, as he puts it, there's a dark side.
Right. All right. So Stephen Hicks is in his mom's basement right now with a hoodie on and his ears just perked up.
Seriously. We did invite Stephen to drop in and chat with us for a bit on this topic. Of course, he was too busy. So he instead put together a 15-minute recording to review the topic of AI and the security and cybersecurity world. So in the interest of time, and since we're supposed to be having fun with AI office hours and not being scared and, all dreary with cybersecurity office hours, you're going to get a link to the recording along with a link to this recording in the follow-up email. And it'll be on, you'll be able to watch that video on the recording page. I say that in jest, honestly. Stephen is extremely knowledgeable, and he's really great to work with. And I know cybersecurity office hours is well attended. I even hear he dressed up as a pirate one time. So
he did.
I have some chops to go yet. At any rate, in the video, he talks a little bit about AI, how both hackers and security professionals are using AI in today's world to do their stuff. And then he's going to touch on some privacy concerns and the need to have AI set up properly inside of your organization. So if you are wondering about how AI plays or cybersecurity plays into AI, what chicken and egg there, this is a great place to start. And then if you have questions beyond that, definitely reach out so we can get some of those answered.
Right. Okay. Now, this is a good place for one of our, it's a question/comment. I'm just going to read it, Michelle, before we move to where to start, because I think it kind of, Mensky says, would be great to get this recording as well as foundational training. Example, what to do to use a Copilot agent. And that's kind of what you're talking about here, right? So yeah, of course you can get this recording, but maybe take it even a step further than training. We've got maybe actually do what you're going to describe here, right, Michelle?
This is the foundational start. It's not going to answer the question of how to use or where to get an agent or how to make an agent, that this kind of thing. But and if you have questions about agents, aside from the SharePoint agent that is already existing inside of the SharePoint sites, agents need to be created. They're made inside of what's called Copilot Studio. And they're targeted, focused AI engines that are focused on a particular thing and limited to a particular knowledge base. So if I wanted to have if I wanted to build my own Salesforce agent, I would connect to Salesforce data, I would build that agent, and then that would become my Salesforce expert. But backing up a little bit, where do you start? If you're looking to start your AI journey, or even if you've already bought Copilot licenses and you're still trying to figure out where it's best used inside of your organization, this slide is it. This is where you start. Step one is to create a user group. This is important. Your AI is a huge topic and it touches so many different things within your organization. It's like one big elephant. Creating a user group allows us to eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? So we're going to identify users, we call them champions. We're going to identify users who are excited about using AI and they're ready to start going to test and play, right? We're going to assign those users different areas of Copilot to go research. So we're not going wide across the spectrum of what AI can do. We're saying, go figure out how Copilot works best in Outlook. And this person's going to go figure out how it works best in Teams. And this person's going to go figure out Word and PowerPoint and Excel and all these other different pieces. These champions are assigned this way so they can lead the implementation and investigation and ensure comprehensive coverage and expertise within the user group. So I go figure out how Copilot works best in Outlook, and I'm going to come back to the user group with my information. I was able to do this, and I was able to do this, and I got roadblocked here. I don't think that's working very well. Maybe we can reach out and figure that out. And here's a really neat thing that I found out that I could do, right? And I'm going to bring that back to my user group, who I'm also going to get tips about what I can do in Teams. And I'm also going to get some progress about what's going on with Word or PowerPoint. We're going to share all this information. And then as a champion, I'm going to take that back to my users and we're going to start building the prompt library. And we're going to start using pre-curated prompts and using good prompt techniques and that art, so that my users don't have to spend all that time trying to figure out how to use AI. We're getting knowledge run down in a planned organizational manner by sharing tips and kind of doing this train the trainer thing, right? Okay, so creating user groups, super important. The second step to getting started with Copilot is Copilot readiness. And so we talked a little bit about security in the last slide. Copilot already adheres to the security you're currently using in your 365 organization. We think it's a good idea to review your 365 tenant and ensure it's ready for AI. So specifically, we're talking about like security group review, especially around SharePoint. And it's important with Copilot. I did a webinar a while back. Actually, Stephen and I did this one together, and we talked a little bit about the idea that security through obscurity is no longer a thing. So files that have been shared with links or even just directly out of SharePoint with a user, even though they don't have access to the entire site or the entire document library, those links often get forgotten about down the road a piece or two. And so we see this thing, this security footprint kind of sprawl a little bit. In the past, if I forgot that I had access to a particular thing, say on my HR site, I don't go looking for it because I've forgotten I, even worked on that project or whatever else. Fast forward a year, I put Copilot in and I ask it something that touches on salaries somewhere, right? And all of a sudden I'm seeing salary information coming out of my SharePoint site from my HR module that I didn't even realize that I had access to. It's right there in my face. So we really want to kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the security footprint, because 365 has been in place for a little while now and security tends to sprawl over time. Okay, so step 3 to your getting started journey is going to be to set up regular meetings. This kind of ties back to the user group, but you want your users to meet on a regular basis, and they want them to be able to plan for what are their tasks during the time that they're away, and what are they bringing back to the meeting in order to bring further knowledge to the group. So setting up a regular meeting cadence for the user group on a biweekly, a monthly, or a quarterly basis, it depends on your organization's needs, and it really depends on the speed you want to be able to roll this out. But these meetings keep everyone aligned, and they provide a platform for discussing progress and challenges and next steps, as well as sharing tips and tricks and building up that prompt gallery library. The last step in our 4-step process here is utilizing resources. And so these resources can come from a lot of different places. The web has a vast amount of information on AI, right? Microsoft has a vast amount of information out there on Copilots. Sometimes it's hard to weed through all of it to know what has value and what doesn't. If you have any questions, we have a bunch of links to start with. And I believe these links are going to show up on the page that you'll get, or the link that you'll get to this recording. Down the road. So you'll be able to see those resource links there and be able to use them. But these are things like getting started kits, a link to the prompt library, scenario libraries. These scenario libraries are pretty cool. They're part of the getting started kits from Microsoft. They're actually narrowed down to industry, and they show some, like Jason's example in the beginning of this meeting, they show some specific examples to that industry of ways that Copilot can be used to further your AI journey. Okay, so if you need assistance, of course, if you need assistance or have questions, or you just want to talk through specific what if scenarios, or if you're ready to go today, Endsight is your partner in your AI adventures. So I'm going to challenge you, reach out to either your technical account manager if you have one from Endsight. You can reply back to the Q&A that's going on currently right now that we'll get to. Or you can reach back out to the sales team when they email you the link. The sales and marketing team is pretty knowledgeable about AI in general, but they also know the people to get you in touch with if you have further questions and we need to talk. Either way, especially with the user group meetings, as you're setting up your user groups and establishing a regular cadence, we can even, like as a development team member, we can pop into your user group meetings on a once or twice basis and provide some guidance, or maybe help find some answers or dig through some things that you guys are having trouble with. And then you have a little pop-up on your screen that asks if you'd like to meet with me and my team.
Yeah, feel free to answer that. Well, you can also, there's lots of different ways to get in touch with Michelle. I think the other thing too is that, this office hours, it's going to be done every 90 days. Consider this resources. There'll be other, we do security shorts. There might be Copilot shorts on the horizon. So we're here to help and provide good information.
100%.
Okay. Now we're to the Q&A section. And Michelle, you did really good.
Thank you.
We got 10 minutes for Q&A, and you
That's
covered
not
a
too
lot.
bad.
And folks, we know that there was a lot there. The idea is that as we kind of lean into doing this office hour format with this subject matter, we'll get better and be able to leave more time towards the end. Let's see. We have some pre-submitted questions. Why don't we start there, Michelle?
Okay,
All right.
so
So first one was, how do I integrate Copilot with my existing systems?
okay, the answer to this question is and by existing systems, I'm assuming we're meaning things that 365 doesn't already know about, because Copilot is going to come in already knowing how to get to your 365 information. But for your organizational
Right.
data, your ERPs and your CRMs and every other alphabet soup that we can throw out there for different organizational data systems, the answer to this question is connectors. Microsoft has spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and dollars working with major software vendors to build connectors that integrate with the Copilot, that allow Copilot to get in and search and identify and retrieve and reason over information that's not specifically 365. For all of those other data pieces that don't have that pre-built connector for it, we can build one. So almost every software vendor out there these days has an API, and if they have an API, we can get it connected into Copilot. And once that happens, it's just a matter of letting an index build and getting that data as part of your organizational knowledge. So
That's good. Okay.
mhm.
Well, number two, you can see it there. How do I measure my success with Copilot?
Um,
What's a
so
chin scratcher, right?
yeah, that one's
So,
a chin
like,
scratcher. It depends on how you define success and what you intend to use Copilot for, but um, to help with that, there are a bunch of metrics. There's usage metrics that equate to productivity gains, business impacts. There's employee feedback. There's the status of the index builds. There's all kinds of like bells and whistles and metrics that exist inside of your 365 tenant. Once you turn Copilot on, this will tell you how often your users are using it, how successful they've been able to be within their own ability to query. It can also help your user group define maybe some areas that they need to work a little bit harder, or go dig into some issues that they've been having with that users have been having as they report feedback and success and failure. So how do I measure
yeah.
my success with Copilot? Another way would also be to try to keep an eye on time savings. So Jason, the example you gave me earlier about the story and the copyright, how long would that have
Hmm.
taken you without Copilot?
Hours, right?
Okay. And how long did
It's
it take you with Copilot?
tens of minutes. Like it took me
Okay.
longer. It took me longer to watch the video at 1.5 speed than
Hmm.
it did to get to the point where I sent you that note,
So
right?
the
And it
ROI in that, or the success in that, is that the time that you saved.
I think it's that. I think the other thing too that's really important is that happened at a very like I had time to watch the video, and I wasn't expecting to have a writing project come out of it, right? I was expecting to be able to respond to a request from Josh. There's an inertia built into that. Like without Copilot, I probably would have just moved on.
Hmm.
Right?
Or
I
put it
didn't
off
have,
till later.
right or been like, I'll come back to that when the inspiration's gone.
Right.
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 So I think that's and that kind. So I guess that would be my thoughts. The less spreadsheet answer about how do you measure success.
Right.
Measure the number of people in your organization that the increasing number of people that are excited about using it and the
Hmm.
stories that they're telling. Right.
Right.
And I think that's a good anecdotal way to say whether this is a good use of your team's time or not, right? Because
Right.
you can bet I'm telling the members of my team that if you're slogging through a writing project without using these resources, you are really doing yourself a disservice, and you're likely not even getting to the best possible product that you could deliver, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
All right, let's keep going because we got just a couple minutes. Why I think this is a really good one. Why Copilot instead of ChatGPT or Gemini or any
Why
of the other
Copilot?
ones on that slide for that matter,
There
right?
were a lot of them. Um, Copilot is deeply integrated with Microsoft 365. It's got inherent security boundaries that prevent your business organizational data from getting leaked out on the internet. It comes with those guardrails in place, and you don't have to redo a bunch of your security, or reassign a bunch of security groups or whatever else coming into the existing organizational data that 365 is already aware of. That's not true with a ChatGPT or a Gemini, or I don't, or some of the other. Anthropic has one that's Claude or whatever.
Yeah.
So having this security boundary allows you to experiment safely. It allows you to go and play and understand and see where this could be most useful without having to worry about your data getting out in your proprietary data getting out of the internet. We're not worried about email messages or what it's reading out of your Teams or any of that kind of stuff. Also, with the automatic integration with all of your apps, we don't have to build a bunch of connectors at the outset. ChatGPT doesn't have that inherent institutional knowledge, and neither does Gemini, but Copilot does. And so it kind of hits the ground running a little faster.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So getting into the chat, I thought this was a good one. This was so great. I'd love to have step 2, Copilot readiness from your first
Okay.
step. Could you expand on that? What is that exactly? Or maybe in a
It's
little bit broader format.
it's doing basically a kind of a security audit. And ours mostly surrounds the SharePoint environment, to be honest. If you're an Endsight client, you've pretty much probably worked with your account manager and with the response center here. And we've gotten security groups and everything else probably nailed down pretty well as far as access to files and everything else. Where we see that sprawl happen kind of in the background without a lot of observation is in SharePoint links and shares. The readiness tool that we built will go through all of your SharePoint sites and all of the assets in your site, and it basically dumps out a list of who has access to what. This can be huge for some of our organizations that have, 100 or 150 or 200 sites overall. That's a big long list, and so we narrow that down to you tell me what you're most worried about. Do you have an HR site? Do you have a finance site? Do we have a contract site that we have to worry about who has access to those things? And we focus in on specifically those things and make sure they're locked down so that we don't have this inadvertent, I searched for a thing and all of a sudden I got access to things that I shouldn't have access to. Our other coaching on that is for your C-level execs or your people who already have access to the world as far as your systems are concerned. We're not worried about them getting a Copilot license. Go ahead and get them one, get them signed up and get them using AI because they already have access to everything. We don't have to worry about making sure that data is locked down away from them. So that's mostly what that readiness tool is about, is really just about making sure that you've got the right security footprint. We do look at your 365 edition. So there's like business premium and there's basic and there's standard and all the other things that go. There's the enterprise E3, E5. All of them come with a different level of security that applies to Copilot. They all come with security, but they all come with a different level of security. Where you get your best bang for the buck as far as your 365 license and integrated with Copilot starts at the business premium level. You can do Copilot with Office Standard, but you get better protection and better security with business premium. That's another thing we look at as far as readiness, is just having that discussion so you're aware of what you can and can't do or what you can and can't expect out of the system. So those are a couple pieces that go into it to the readiness.
Yeah. Okay. I think we got time for one more. Paul, and I don't know if it's a question or a manifesto. So Paul says, can we take your recording and put it through Copilot to summarize the recording so I can give to my partners to give them an overview of the with the recording reference links like Jason's example at the beginning? I would imagine what he's talking about are the timestamps, right?
Yeah. So
or that may be a good example when, or I guess it's a question and a suggestion, or that might be a good example when sending out the recording later.
right.
Later, I don't know if we can do. I'm trying to think how we might be able to do that at scale. I don't know if we can, but you can. Michelle, why don't you answer?
Well, the short answer is yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get it inherently because we're running inside of a Zoom meeting right now, but Copilot does analysis on a meeting like this we're recording via a transcript. So when you do record a Teams meeting, you're automatically building that verbal transcript in the background, and that's what Copilot's going to reason over. Throwing a video at Copilot is not going to make much sense to it because there's no transcript in the background without that. But there are tools like you can upload a video, any video pretty much, to Microsoft Stream and ask it to build a transcript and then use Copilot to iterate over that. Can we do it for this meeting for you? I'm sure we could. I'm a little afraid actually to see what it would summarize out of there. Like, would it get all my points? Or
we can figure this out, Paul. So maybe we talk offline to figure out how to. This is a great experiment, and then maybe you come on next time and show us how you did it. All right.
That was a good one.
Moving on to the next slide.
Okay.
Speaking of our next session, it is going to be, this is yours, right? This is
Yes.
yes.
This is
It's
AI
going to be
office
June
hours.
26th. This is our next AI office hours. And you can feel free to sign up by using the QR code, using the links, or you can just shoot an email to Aaron Krebs and we'll register. I think he might also be putting up a poll right now so you can say that
Yes,
you,
there it is.
if you want to sign up for it. The next thing you need to know about, we've mentioned a number of times that Stephen Hicks also does a quarterly office hour, so they'll be offset from Michelle. If cybersecurity is something that is of a concern to you, you don't want to miss these because Stephen digs into what he's seen the last 90 days, what that means to our clients, what we should be doing about it, how we should be thinking about it. And again, all of this content is always going to be available to you, whether you're an Endsight client or not.
And he sometimes dresses up like a pirate.
Yeah, but he won't talk like a pirate anymore because that really upset people.
Oh boy.
With that, at 2:00, Michelle, we are done.
Hey, I hit the target.
We made it. So
for those
thank you, everybody.
Questions that did not get answered, I'm going to be taking a look at those after the fact, and we'll get some information out to you on what the answers to those questions are. We're not going to forget about those.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you for making time, and thank you for joining. So many of you carved out time for this today. We hope you found it useful, and we hope you come back for the next one.
Yep.
All right. So Michelle, while we're waiting people to fill out, I do want to read you. It's a comment, and I just thought it was sweet. So I want it on record here. It's from Miguel Smith. Said, I might need to leave the webinar early, but if so, it will be no reflection on you.
Aww.
Isn't that
that was
kind?
very nice. That was very kind.
Miguel, thank you.
Yes, appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Now, she has much thicker skin than me. That really helps me because I'm like, oh, they didn't stay. All right.
I really appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you.
Let's see. Yep. Thank you, Irma. Really appreciate it. And we'll be making sure to get this, getting a recording out to folks as folks are filing out. Michelle, I'll stick around and just monitor in case there's questions that come up, but I know you're a busy lady, so if you want to keep moving, feel free.
I'm on it. Let me know if there's anything you need me for. And I do want that list
there's stuff that we need you for. Yeah, there's stuff that we need you for. Just Aaron will be following up with you shortly. Aaron, again, man, thank you so much for your efforts. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. There's 29 people left in chat. I think it's folks that went to go get lunch or something.
Okay.
But yeah, you go ahead. Well, I'll let you go, Michelle. Thanks again.
I don't know how to stop sharing. There it is. Stop share. Yeah. I can operate a computer. Thank you again. I'll talk to you guys soon.
See you, pal. I'll stick around for just a couple minutes. If anybody has questions, go ahead and raise your hand or I think we're in pretty good shape here. All right, Aaron, this one's for you. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. Burger, 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 burger.
My goodness, that's a real show right there.
All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and shut down. Everybody that's still on that went to lunch, thank you so much. And we hope to see you at the next office hour. Have a great weekend. Bye now.